Hey guys, welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast post-game show. Hope you guys are having a great Thursday night. Before we do jump into this podcast, if you guys can come on in, hit that like button if you guys are watching live on YouTube. If you're an audio listener, make sure to give us a 5-star review wherever you do get your podcast. But you guys, not going to waste your time. Let's get into this Detroit Pistons versus Indiana Pacers post-game show. So to start the first quarter, Tim Hardaway Jr. was a flamethrower. He scored the Pistons' first 10 points, and he really got it going. There was a play in the first quarter where Aaron Naismith not only forearmed him, but elbowed him in the back of the head. Didn't really seem to stop THJ throughout the night. He had over 20 points, but there was a flagrant one. Hate to see, THJ go down. If you guys remember earlier this year, he got elbowed in the head very badly versus Miami Heat. Did miss a game, had stitches. So it was good to see THJ get up after that kind of just bang play. But I think in the first quarter, what I really saw with this team, the Indiana Pacers, I should say, is their defense was just so intense. The way that they were trapping Cade Cunningham, I think, was their game plan, and it definitely worked. They just, if he had the basketball, they were going to double, triple team him just to get the flow for the Detroit Pistons offense to kind of be like really stagnant at times. And it definitely worked. The Pistons had 7 turnovers in the first quarter alone and almost up to 20 turnovers tonight. But THJ and Tobias definitely carried the Pistons in this first quarter. It was a 29-26 lead after one, and I felt like the Pistons were really fortunate to only be trailing by 3, especially the way that they played in the first quarter and just the way that they were just giving up the ball, bad passes, just really sloppy offense, I thought, in the first quarter for the Detroit Pistons. Going into the second quarter, just the Pacers' defensive pressure, I thought, throughout the night was really good, and this isn't the same team that we saw a couple of months ago in the in-season tournament where the Pistons just basically kicked their ass. This is a Pacers team that is starting to figure out. They're one of the hottest teams in basketball right now, much like your Detroit Pistons, and they just came out scrappy defensively. Aaron Naismith had a really good game defensively. TJ McConnell has always just been a pest for the Pistons. Pascal Siakam had a good game in the post. He's a very frustrating player to watch if you're a Piston fan. We'll get into the Pascal Siakam stuff towards the end of the game. But the foul trouble, I think, for the Pistons in the second quarter was also something that really hurt them in this basketball game. They got into the penalty with around 4 minutes to go. So anytime that the Pistons fouled them, the Pacers were getting free throws. And they had 6 turnovers in the second quarter. And going into halftime, Indiana had a 69-56 lead. Coming out of halftime, Miles Turner just had a game. He tied a career high from shooting from the outside. He hit 8 3-pointers tonight against your Detroit Pistons. And I feel like anytime we play a stretch 5 or a pick and pop center or power forward, it has been our biggest weakness throughout the season. I mean, we've seen Brook Lopez do it. Miles Turner did it tonight. Lauri Markkanen did it with the Utah Jazz. Just these pick and pop bigs that can just really spread from the outside, just really hurt the Pistons. And I thought the perimeter defense, throughout the game was pretty bad. You had multiple people trying to check Turner. Duren, it just, he did have a good rebounding game. I will give him that. But, guarding Miles Turner, I didn't think he did a good job. JB had Tobias switch on him because he wanted to keep Duren in the paint, and that was probably by design. But Miles Turner, I've been telling you guys, if I'm the Pistons, I tried to see what I could get, try to trade for him because he's just such a good basketball player. Ron Holland, probably not his best game as a Detroit Piston this year. He had 5 fouls in 8 minutes. Not ideal. But the Pistons do surge a little bit going into the third quarter. And they come out of halftime a little bit more aggressive, getting to the free throw line more. Indiana still had a lead, 92-81. Coming out of the third quarter, getting into the fourth quarter, the Pistons defense started to pick up. They were able to make stops. And this was at one point an 18-point lead for the Pacers. Pistons get all the way down to 6 points, not once, but twice. And they just couldn't come back. I think they were just gassed. Cade looked really tired tonight, looked frustrated tonight. I felt like he got fouled multiple times throughout the game. Referees were calling it. There was a couple of possessions that THJ got fouled. There's one play in particular where Tyrese Halliburton landed on his ankles, and the officials did not call a foul, but Pistons lose to the Pacers 111-100. And I know we're going to get into it because this game was very chippy. There was instances of JB Bickerstaff barking at Rick Carlisle. The coaches were getting into it. Towards the end, or I think in the second quarter, Siakam was kind of barking at the Pistons bench to end the second quarter. And the referees basically had to separate him from the Pistons bench. And then towards the end of the game, Siakam was still talking to Cade Cunningham. And this wasn't a thing where when you watch the end of basketball games, all the players, catch up, high five, tap each other up. You had both benches go to half court and separate each other. And it seems like we are getting a Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers rivalry coming back. Now, you'd probably have to be like around my age, or I know a lot of you guys are either around my age or maybe a little bit older. You guys remember those Indiana Pacers, Detroit Piston rivalries with Reggie Miller, Jermaine O'Neal, Steven Jackson, Ben Wallace, like the Golden Work Crew. Like those teams did not like each other. And it seemed like these two teams did not like each other. JB, during his press conference after the game was over, was asked about it. And he was like, yeah, it's like we kicked their ass at their place. It's like if they didn't, come in here to do the same thing, like it's no fun beating them. So the coaches are getting into it. The players are getting into it. Pistons do play the Pacers, I believe, in 10 days or so. So that game is going to be really heated. But I just want to say I am here for Detroit Pistons, Indiana Pacers rivalry rekindling. This was a game where if the Pistons won, they would have jumped up to the 6th seed. With a loss, they're now down to the 9th seed. There's still a lot of progress with this team. Obviously, this was just a sloppy game in the first half. They started to clean it up in the second half, but overall, I think if the Pistons, want to keep this trajectory of, competing, trying to get into the playoffs, playing tournament, whatever they do this season, you have to limit these turnovers. I think more teams are going to take Indiana's approach in trap Cade, double Cade. And the trading deadline is 3 weeks away. It'll be really interesting to see what this team does do in terms of adding more talent, making trades. But overall, I'm not too mad with this loss. I'm actually more excited with this rivalry, rekindling a little bit. I do want to get into any comments and questions with you guys because I do see there are, a couple comments and questions from you guys, and we're going to get into that right after a quick commercial break, you guys. Okay, guys, we are back after that quick commercial break. I actually lost connection for a minute. Shout out to my Wi-Fi. But I do want to get into um, some comments and questions from you guys that you did leave. First one goes to Michigan made. Tough game. Pacers were defending Cade and forcing anybody but him to make a play or a bucket. Yeah, I mean, I think that was their game plan, and I think it was a very smart, strategic game plan by Rick Carlisle is to get the ball out of Cade Cunningham's hands because Cade initiates everything with this basketball team, and I think this was the first night where I'm thinking to myself, Pistons really miss Jaden Ivey. Not to say that they haven't missed him during this, win streak or, how they've played since losing him, but having a dynamic guard like Jaden Ivey that can take some pressure off, have more, secondary ball handler skills. I thought if Jaden Ivey was available or even healthy for this game, Pistons may have won it. But obviously, we don't really know if Jaden Ivey is going to come back this season. Pistons still have not ruled it out if he's officially out for the season. But I really felt like, watching this game, Pistons missed Jaden Ivey a ton tonight because he's just a guard that can really take the stress off of Cade, and he can play make, get to the basket, score at all three levels. But yeah, definitely a tough game to watch if you are a Piston fan tonight. Miles Turner was in a mega heater tonight. He was. I mean, that's definitely a player that I've talked to you guys about. I like Miles Turner a lot. He's kind of on my wish list this summer for the Pistons to try to target. I don't know how they do it financially because they would have to free up for some cap space, but a stretch five, being able to, protect the rim. He's not a big that really rebounds as much as you want, but I mean, a lot of his threes, he was just wide open. Like he's just one of the better stretch fives, I would say, in the game. I mean, you could have conversations about Cat. Miles Turner's right up there with him. And he's been a pretty good stretch five for several years. But yeah, Miles Turner was just killing Jalen Duren and the Pistons tonight. Comment from Dolly. Too many turnovers tonight, man. Wish Siakam was a Piston. We would definitely be a top team in the East and less pressure on Cade. Yeah, I felt like the turnovers were really bad. And the fouling at times, especially in the second quarter, really hurt us throughout the game. I know Siakam was on the Detroit Pistons wish list from last year of, forwards they wanted to target. Obviously, Indiana just could not pass up to pair Siakam with Halliburton. They gave the Raptors multiple first, and then they extended them. So, Siakam's going to be a pacer for quite a long time. But yeah, man, Siakam's a good player. He's just really frustrating to watch. And obviously, I think for the Detroit Pistons, Dolly, I think that's what they're looking at and exploring this trade deadline is trying to pair another player with Cade Cunningham to take the pressure off of him. Because you saw tonight, their game plan was just trap Cade. Like, we don't, like, if their role players beat us, cool. But we'll live with Marcus Sasser hitting threes or Tim Hardaway Jr. hitting threes. They just did not want the ball in Cade Cunningham's hands. And it kind of shows you how well Cade has been playing this season, where coaches are just devising game plans so he doesn't get hot, so he doesn't get everyone else involved. And, just let Tobias try putting it on the floor. And he did multiple times, and it was turnovers. Let Malik Beasley do the same thing. Beasley had a really bad game. He had 3 points. I think if Beasley had a game where he scored 15 points, Pistons probably win this. He was another player that the Pacers really trapped, ran him off that 3-point line and kind of forced him to take the ball to the cup. And he missed a couple of layups tonight. Just wasn't a really good game for him overall. But you got to tip your cap to the Pacers. I thought that they did a pretty good job. Big Sue play outside the paint can have damn good nights against the Pistons. Yeah, it's been a common theme. Nights like tonight, I would have loved to see a Paul Reed out there. I feel like Paul Reed brings energy. He really blitzes on the perimeter. He can protect the rim, but the way Stu was, defending his ass off tonight, blocking shots and just affecting the game defensively, it was probably hard to find minutes for Paul Reed. But yeah, stretch fives have just really been our kryptonite throughout the season, in my opinion, anyways. To a question from Red Baron, also, can we get some sort of consistency from Beasley whenever Malik or someone try to do more, they're capable of it more often turns into lost possessions? Yeah, I mean, like when Beasley's not shooting threes, and like I'm not gonna single him out because like I feel like Simone has done this, Tim has done this, where we ask our perimeter shooters to put the ball on the floor and try to make something out of nothing. It turns into a lost possession, like you mentioned, Red Baron. I do agree with you. It's just we need a little bit more help. I think adding possibly a secondary ball handler could take the stress off of our role players trying to expand their game, because we all know Simone Fontecchio putting the ball on the floor, it's not his strength. He did have a basket tonight where he put the ball on the floor and he made it, but like more times than not, it's usually a turnover. Same with Tim, same with Beasley. You're just kind of asking a lot of them, and more times than not, it turns into maybe a turnover, a fast break chance for the opposing team. But overall, I think the vets have been pretty solid throughout the season. But the Pacers game plan tonight, I think you just have to tip your cap to Rick Carlisle. I know Cruz has said the Pacers deployed a playoff type game plan to defend Cade tonight. Yeah, they did, because Cade has just been on a heater. Coming into tonight's game, over his last three, Cade was averaging 30 points per game and almost shooting 50% from three. And the Pacers watched film. They understood, like, if we want to beat the Detroit Pistons tonight, we cannot let Cade Cunningham get to his spots. We can't give him any type of airspace. And that's what you saw out of Andrew Nebhart. I thought he defended him probably the best out of any opponent that we've, faced this season. He did a really good job of just like really getting into his grill, not letting Cade get to any of his sweet spots in the elbow or the mid-range, or even bringing the ball up the court. There are multiple turnovers between Andrew Nebhart and TJ McConnell, just forcing Cade to just really look for the extra man when maybe the play wasn't there, it didn't materialize yet. But overall, you do have to tip your cap to the Pacers. I thought they played a really tough brand of basketball. Obviously, as Pistons fans, we hate losing to Indiana, but that's what happened. But I'm probably going to wrap up this podcast, you guys. Got some stuff to do, but the Pistons do lose tonight, 111-100 to the Indiana Pacers. They are now 21-20. Their next game will be on Saturday against the Indiana Pacers. Their next game will be Saturday against the Phoenix Suns. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant are coming to town. Who knows what they play? They might do load management because they want to go to the Lions game on Saturday. But that'll be the next game. We'll have a podcast for you guys, a post-game podcast like this immediately after the game. And then this weekend, we are having Zarek and his brother Zay on Sunday. So we'll have a Saturday, Sunday podcast for you guys like we usually do. Appreciate you guys, watching. Even though it was a Pistons loss, we're doing these all season long. Talk to you guys on Saturday. Take care and have a good night. Go Pistons.